Move away from processes, because we are long in terms of describing the what. And when I look at the documents you'll be considering here, they are all telling you about the what. They are not addressing the how. Because if you don't address the how, the danger is you are going to come up with recommendations to our ministers that don't work. Even if it meant you spent the next 2 days here sharing that information, then coming up with things that should be done. For me, I can tell you, I'll be happy, because at least you will be addressing those things. In the case of Zambia PS, I just want to say the following, that when you look at the automotive industry, it requires the wire harnesses. Let's take, for example, because you are also part of SADC, South Africa, at Port Elizabeth, etc. They have Delma-Benz, they have the German one, the other one, BMW, Toyota, etc. But where do they get their wire harnesses from? They are getting them from Asia, from China, etc. But who is exporting the copper from which you've got the wire harnesses? It is Zambia. So the point I'm making here, and I'm making a passionate appeal here, is that I think the time has come for us to stop really dealing with processes. Let us begin to look at what is it that each country can do. And how can we then have those countries linking up and doing that? Or if you look at Zambia and DRC, you produce 60% or 65% of the total cobalt. I'm not talking about copper this time, but of cobalt in the world. It is in these two countries. But what are the industries that are using cobalt? The aviation industry, etc., they are doing that. So why don't we get those done? The point I'm trying to say this morning here is, let us simply move away from processes. We have an industrial policy of 2015. Here we are meeting in 2017. But what is it that can be done? So the challenge I'm putting, with your permission, PS, to this committee is that even if it meant that you just take about 1 hour to endorse the strategy, because the strategy will have to be costed. Maybe we shall have to cost it together with yourselves and come to the meeting of the Council of Ministers, because these are still our ministers of trade and industry, and say, yes, in order for us to achieve that 25% target, this is what each country will do. If it's agro-processing industry, let's have those projects and begin to work on them, because behind those projects, when you have got the investment, there will be jobs. What is the public policy number one facing the governments? It is jobless growth. Where you have economies that are growing at an average of 5%, they were growing at the average of 6.5% in the past 8 years. But we've got nothing to show for in terms of jobs.
So I think it's very important that now we move from talking to actual practice and up to action. I think that is what we are saying this meeting should be. So as experts, we are expecting that you will come up with practical recommendations that will help us all at the national level, because we're all coming from different countries, but also feeding into the regional level. And I think we all have one vision in terms of industrialization, and that's what we are all feeding into. So I'm hoping that all of us here today can take that very, very seriously in the next 2 days, so that as we feed into what the ministers will be looking at in terms of recommendations, we can make that process much, much easier if we ourselves are very, very clear, I think very, very practical, and very, very action-oriented. I think, as you know, we are not comfortable by being told that Africa remains the poorest and most vulnerable region in the world, as stated by the UNGA. I think it's about time we stop listening to this as being what we are and move away from that. And if we continue to do that, I think we'll continue to be comfortable in just being called the most poorest and vulnerable region in the world. But we have something that we can do, because I think we have realized that we need to do something. And I really must commend COMESA for coming up with this meeting so that we can look at this strategy in detail and give the guidance that is required in terms of setting the industrial development agenda for our region.